Morgan Foster, a 28-year-old accountant, navigated life with a modest income, a source of quiet tension within her status-conscious family. For 2 years, she had resided back in her mother's home, diligently accumulating savings for her first real estate venture. All the while, her younger sister, Vanessa, effortlessly commanded the family's attention with her expensive lifestyle as an influencer. When Morgan stumbled upon an abandoned Victorian-era house, listed for a mere $900 at a tax auction, an inexplicable pull drew her in. It felt as though this forgotten place was calling out to her specifically, a connection she couldn't articulate. This narrative delves into the journey of finding intrinsic value in what others deem worthless. Growing up in a middle-class suburban setting, the Foster household prioritized appearances over genuine substance. Their mother, Elaine, a realtor specializing in luxury properties, meticulously cultivated a perfect facade, though they never truly integrated into the wealthy circles she aspired to. Their home was kept immaculate, their attire stylish, and their achievements carefully presented for maximum social impact. Morgan, having inherited her father's pragmatic nature and quiet demeanor, presented a contrast to her sister. Vanessa, 3 years her junior, was their mother's perfect reflection, beautiful, charming, and instinctively adept at leveraging social connections. With the rise of Instagram and TikTok during Vanessa's high school years, their mother swiftly recognized the potential, investing significantly in equipment, professional photographers, and even minor cosmetic enhancements to propel Vanessa's career as a lifestyle influencer. In stark contrast, Morgan's decision to major in accounting elicited thinly veiled disappointment. Playing it safe, as usual, her mother had commented upon her college acceptance, an achievement quickly overshadowed by Vanessa's first sponsored post deal just weeks later. Their father, though quietly supportive of Morgan's path, rarely challenged their mother's vision for the family. His sudden heart attack 3 years prior left a void that seemed to amplify the existing family dynamics. The modest life insurance policy and savings he left behind largely fell under their mother's purview, with the understanding that it would facilitate family advancement, a term that increasingly equated to furthering Vanessa's career. Following a difficult breakup with her college boyfriend and a job relocation, Morgan had returned temporarily to her childhood bedroom, rationalizing it as a prudent financial move while she built her savings. What was intended as a 6-month stay had extended to 2 years, during which she meticulously saved just over $40,000 through careful budgeting, preparing her own lunches, driving her aging car, and declining social invitations that didn't align with her financial objectives. Each savings milestone, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, served as motivation during uncomfortable family dinners, where her accomplishments at the accounting firm were mere footnotes to Vanessa's latest collaboration or follower count achievement. The family's excitement was palpable when Vanessa announced her plans to launch a luxury wellness retreat in Sedona as her next business endeavor. This is precisely the kind of venture that will elevate you, their mother effused over dinner, scrolling through the professional mock-ups Vanessa had commissioned. Morgan noted the substantial startup costs outlined in the business plan, but remained silent as her mother hinted broadly that family members should support one another when a promising vision emerged. The expectation hung heavy in the air, unspoken yet unmistakable. Morgan's carefully amassed savings were now viewed not as her personal future, but as a potential stepping stone for Vanessa. Excusing herself early from that dinner under the guise of work deadlines, Morgan caught her reflection in the hallway mirror, scarcely recognizing the woman who had become so accustomed to feeling overlooked within her own family's home. A change was imperative, and soon. Morgan's interest in real estate initially served as an escape from the escalating domestic tension. Each evening after work, she would browse online listings, calculating hypothetical mortgage payments and renovation budgets, What began as a mere distraction gradually evolved into genuine research as she educated herself on property values, inspection considerations, and investment potential. On a particularly frustrating Tuesday, after another dinner dominated by discussions of Vanessa's retreat, Morgan expanded her search parameters to include foreclosures and auctions, driven more by curiosity than serious intent. That's when the listing appeared. A dilapidated Victorian-era house headed for an upcoming tax auction with a starting bid of just $900. The listing featured only a single exterior photograph of a clearly neglected property, showing peeling paint, overgrown vegetation, and a partially collapsed front porch. Most would have scrolled past without a second thought, but something compelled Morgan to click and delve deeper. Situated in the historic district of a small town located 30 minutes from her current workplace, the property had been abandoned after the elderly owner passed away without heirs, resulting in 3 years of unpaid property taxes. The following morning, Morgan took her first sick day ever and drove out to view the property in person. The reality presented a mixed picture, simultaneously worse and better than the online photo suggested. The yard resembled a dense jungle, with weeds reaching the first-floor windows and several young trees growing precariously close to the foundation. The slate roof showed visible gaps. The paint had peeled back to reveal layers of previous colors, and the wraparound porch sagged dangerously. Yet, beneath these obvious signs of neglect, Morgan perceived the potential for something magnificent. Intricate gingerbread trim partially intact under the eaves, original stained glass transoms above solid wood doors, and the graceful proportions characteristic of Victorian architecture. She didn't enter the house that day. Legally, she couldn't. Instead, she took dozens of photos and spent her lunch hour at the county records office researching the property's history. The house had been constructed in 1893 by a local merchant who had amassed a fortune in textiles. For nearly a century, it had remained within the same family, until the last descendant, an elderly woman named Margaret Winters, passed away without children. Intrigued, Morgan contacted her college friend Tyler, now a contractor specializing in historic renovations. When she texted him the listing photos, he called her immediately. "The structure appears salvageable," he stated, his voice reflecting professional curiosity. "These old Victorians were built to last. If the foundation is solid and there's no significant water damage, it could be an incredible project." 2 days later, Tyler accompanied Morgan for a proper interior inspection, arranged through the auction company. The inside was a time capsule, dusty but largely intact. Original hardwood floors lay beneath layers of grime. Ornate ceiling medallions adorned the rooms. A sweeping staircase featured hand-carved balusters, and even some period light fixtures remained. True, significant work was required. The kitchen and bathrooms were hopelessly outdated. The electrical system needed complete replacement, and water stains on several ceilings pointed to roof leaks. But after 3 hours of thorough examination, Tyler offered his professional assessment. Structurally, it's remarkably sound. You're looking at roughly $35,000 for essential renovations: roof, electrical, plumbing, one functional bathroom, and a basic kitchen. If you're willing to tackle some of the cosmetic work yourself and live through the renovations, you could transform this place on your budget. That evening, Morgan meticulously created a spreadsheet: $900 for the purchase, approximately $35,000 for critical renovations, leaving a small reserve for unexpected issues. It would nearly deplete her savings, but she would own a home outright, free of a mortgage. As she compared historical photos from the county archives to her own pictures of the property's current state, she couldn't help but draw parallels to her own situation. Something possessing inherent value, overlooked and underestimated by those unable to see beyond the superficial problems. The auction was scheduled for the following week, and as she registered as a potential bidder, Morgan experienced the first genuine excitement she'd felt in years. 3 days before the auction, their mother announced a special family dinner, mentioning that Aunt Patricia and Uncle Richard would be joining, along with their cousins. Vanessa has a comprehensive presentation about her retreat. She informed Morgan while scheduling a hair appointment. Wear something suitable. Patricia always observes these details. Morgan selected a conservative blue dress from her work wardrobe and arrived in the dining room to find it transformed with their mother's finest china, fresh flower arrangements, and printed materials at each place setting. Vanessa, resplendent in a cream designer outfit that likely cost more than Morgan's monthly salary, connected her laptop to the television for her presentation. Dinner conversation centered entirely on Vanessa's expanding influence and connections until their mother tapped her glass for attention. As you know, we've convened to discuss an exciting opportunity, she began, nodding towards Vanessa. For the next 20 minutes, Vanessa delivered a polished presentation about her planned wellness retreat, an exclusive experience focused on authentic spiritual elements and premium pricing. The financial section detailed startup costs of $50,000, with projected returns commencing after 18 months. We've secured partial funding through my partnership arrangements, Vanessa explained, but we require additional family investment to retain controlling interest. Uncle Richard, immediately impressed, offered $5,000, followed by Aunt Patricia offering the same. Their mother beamed with pride, announcing her own $10,000 contribution. All eyes then turned expectantly towards Morgan. Well, Morgan, their mother prompted, this is precisely the sort of family opportunity you've been saving for. The assumption left Morgan momentarily speechless. She cleared her throat, surprised by the steadiness in her voice. Actually, I've been saving for my own investment opportunity. I'm purchasing a house. This announcement was met with initial curious interest until Morgan displayed the property photos on her phone. Aunt Patricia's expression shifted from interest to horror. Uncle Richard awkwardly returned the phone without comment. Their mother let out a sharp, dismissive laugh. Surely you jest? That's not a house. It's a demolition project. It needs work, Morgan acknowledged, but the structure is sound and... Morgan always possessed unconventional tastes, her mother interrupted, turning to their relatives. But this is extreme, even for her, darling. That's not a sensible investment. It's $900 at auction, plus renovation costs, Morgan attempted to explain, outlining Tyler's assessment before Vanessa interjected. $900? That's literally the cost of one night at the retreat. If the property had actual value, it wouldn't sell for so little. Many people fail to see beyond superficial issues, Morgan responded, a subtle edge entering her voice.
But I've conducted my research.
Their mother's expression hardened. Research or not, your sister's business represents a far more appropriate use of your savings. You've consistently been so practical. For once, couldn't you support something visionary? The conversation escalated as Morgan explained she had already registered for the auction. You would squander your entire savings on this junk house. Rather than invest in your sister's future? Their mother's volume rose with each word. I am not squandering anything, Morgan replied, struggling to maintain composure. I am investing in my own future, and I have already made my decision. Her mother's face flushed with anger. This is unbelievably selfish. Your sister has diligently worked to create genuine opportunities, while you've played it safe your entire life. The one time your family requires your support, you opt for this? She gestured dismissively towards Morgan's phone. Aunt Patricia interjected with forced concern. Morgan, dear, have you been feeling well lately? These kinds of impulsive decisions can sometimes suggest stress or even depression. I am not being impulsive, Morgan countered, her hands beginning to tremble beneath the table. I have dedicated weeks to researching this property and consulting with a professional contractor. Weeks? Vanessa's perfect eyebrows arched dramatically. You've been planning this for weeks. Fully aware of my retreat plans? while I've been incorporating family investment into my business model. The guilt trip was expertly delivered, portraying Morgan as the antagonist, despite the fact that no one had actually inquired if she wished to invest in the project. They had simply presumed her savings were available. As dinner concluded amidst uncomfortable tension, their mother pulled Morgan into the kitchen under the pretense of assisting with dessert. "You will not embarrass this family with this preposterous project," she hissed, her voice low but intense. "You will contact them tomorrow. Withdraw from that auction, and you will contribute to Vanessa's retreat, like everyone else in this family who matters." For the first time in her adult life, Morgan looked directly into her mother's eyes and simply said, "No." The stunned silence that followed felt strangely empowering. The morning after the disastrous family dinner, as Morgan prepared for work, her mother entered her bedroom without knocking. Her face was composed, but her eyes held a coldness. "I have been contemplating your announcement last night," she began, sitting uninvited on the edge of the bed. "And I have decided to offer you a choice." She smoothed an invisible wrinkle from her silk robe. "Either you reconsider this foolish house purchase and contribute to your sister's business, as a proper family member should, or you can vacate immediately." The ultimatum hung heavy between them. "I am not altering my decision about the house," Morgan replied, continuing to apply mascara, as if this conversation wasn't fundamentally shifting her life's trajectory. "Then you have 1 week to secure alternative accommodations," her mother stated flatly. "I will not tolerate someone residing under my roof who so flagrantly disregards family priorities." As Morgan turned to face her, her mother delivered the blow she had clearly rehearsed. "If you wish to live like junk, then go inhabit your junk house. But do not anticipate a welcome return when your little project inevitably fails." She rose and moved towards the door, pausing for dramatic effect. "You have embarrassed this family enough already. Patricia messaged me last night, expressing genuine concern about your mental state." After she left, Morgan remained motionless at her vanity, mascara wand suspended midair, as the gravity of her situation settled in. In 1 week, she would effectively be without a home, as the newly purchased house would not be immediately habitable. The auction was still 2 days away, and despite her outward confidence, doubt began to creep in. Was she making a catastrophic error? Her phone chimed with a text from Vanessa. "Mom informed me of what transpired. I'm genuinely worried about you. It's unlike you to exhibit such selfishness. Perhaps we could discuss it. I'm certain we can reach a compromise where you could still contribute something to the retreat." The manipulative phrasing was not lost on Morgan, and she left the message unanswered as she completed her preparations for work. Throughout the day, messages arrived from various family members. Aunt Patricia suggested the name of her therapist. Uncle Richard offered to talk sense into her over a round of golf on Saturday. Cousin Melanie, always their mother's informant, posed pointed questions about Morgan's sudden interest in derelict properties. Only her cousin James sent a message of support. "Whatever you decide, know that I support you. Mom and Aunt Elaine do not speak for all of us." That evening, Morgan commenced the arduous process of sorting her belongings, separating necessities from items that would need to be placed in storage. The auction proceeded as scheduled, and with surprisingly no competing bids, Morgan became the owner of the Victorian house for precisely $900, plus fees. Her mother's expression when Morgan presented the deed was a mixture of disbelief and disappointment that cut deeper than expected. "You have actually gone through with this insanity," she stated, shaking her head. "I honestly believed you would come to your senses." The remaining days passed in uncomfortable silence. Vanessa alternated between completely ignoring Morgan and making tearful appeals about family loyalty. Their mother fluctuated between cold fury and theatrical sighs of disappointment. By the weekend, Morgan had arranged for her essential belongings to be transported to the house, despite Tyler's warnings that it wasn't ready for habitation. "The utilities are connected now," but there's no hot water yet, and the heating system is questionable at best. He cautioned as they unloaded her car. Are you certain you don't want to stay at my place until we've addressed the basics? Morgan declined his offer, feeling a stubborn need to prove, perhaps primarily to herself, that she could make this work. That first night alone in the empty house was a test of resolve. She nearly failed. With only a camping mattress on the floor of what would eventually become her bedroom, battery-powered lanterns casting eerie shadows on peeling wallpaper, and the persistent sound of water dripping somewhere in the distance, she curled into her sleeping bag and finally allowed herself to cry. The tears stemmed not merely from fear or uncertainty, but from a deeper wound. The realization that her family had assigned her so little value that they were willing to discard her entirely for daring to prioritize her own aspirations. As temperatures plummeted to uncomfortable levels in the drafty house, she questioned every decision that had led her to this point. Sleep came fitfully, interrupted by strange house sounds and the weight of her own doubts. The first morning in her new home brought an unexpected measure of solace. Morgan awoke to sunlight streaming through the east-facing windows, filtering through decades of dust on the glass, yet somehow transforming the shabby room into something almost magical. The light illuminated details she hadn't fully appreciated during the inspection: intricate crown molding, the subtle pattern in the hardwood flooring, and the perfect proportions of the 10-foot ceilings. Working with Tyler, she developed a strategic renovation plan, focusing first on establishing one habitable zone: a functional bathroom, a safe electrical system, and a weatherproof roof became the immediate priorities. Her savings, severely depleted by the necessary professional work, would not extend to conventional renovations beyond these essentials. This limitation became an unexpected form of education. YouTube tutorials became her evening companions as she learned to strip wallpaper, repair plaster, refinish floors, and paint like a professional. The local hardware store, initially intimidating with its overwhelming array of options, gradually became familiar territory, where staff greeted her by name and offered advice freely. During her third week of ownership, a tentative knock at the front door revealed an elderly woman clutching a plate of homemade cookies. I'm Irene Davenport from next door, she introduced herself, eyes warm with curiosity. I've been observing your progress and thought you might need sustenance. Irene, it turned out, had resided in the neighborhood for 60 years and remembered Margaret Winters, the home's last owner. Such a lovely woman, though quite private in her later years, Irene reminisced as she helped Morgan wash decades of grime from the kitchen windows. She would undoubtedly be pleased to witness someone breathing life back into this old place. Through Irene, Morgan connected with other neighbors, some initially skeptical of her project, but increasingly supportive as they observed her daily efforts. The neighborhood handyman lent her specialized tools, complete with informal tutorials. A retired carpenter offered to assist in rebuilding the front porch in exchange for her help organizing his deceased wife's extensive library. At Tyler's suggestion, Morgan created an Instagram account documenting the restoration process, partly to track progress and partly to connect with other old house enthusiasts. What began as occasional posts about specific projects unexpectedly attracted followers, people fascinated by the transformation and offering encouragement or advice. 6 weeks into the renovation, she received her first sponsorship offer from a company specializing in period-appropriate hardware, providing authentic replacements for missing doorknobs and hinges in exchange for feature posts. Despite working full-time and dedicating every evening and weekend to the house, Morgan discovered reserves of energy she never knew she possessed. Each small victory, a cleaned chandelier revealing its crystal beauty, a repaired section of ornate trim, the first properly functioning bathroom, built confidence that extended far beyond home improvement skills. Their mother's predicted check-in calls never materialized. The family silence was nearly complete. aside from occasional updates from James. Through him, Morgan learned that Vanessa's retreat planning continued, funded by their mother's increasingly significant contributions and loans from other relatives. Morgan's absence from family gatherings was apparently explained as a concerning phase she was undergoing. While the estrangement was painful, it also created space for new relationships. The DIY restoration community introduced her to people who valued creativity, resourcefulness, and authenticity over appearances, qualities that had never been currency in the Foster household. For the first time in her life, Morgan was building connections based on genuine shared interests rather than obligation or proximity. As fall transitioned into winter, the house gradually became more comfortable. The new roof and repaired windows effectively kept out the elements. The restored central heating system, a significant investment that consumed the last of her savings, provided reliable warmth. The kitchen, though still featuring mismatched, salvaged cabinets and secondhand appliances, became functional enough for simple meals. Each evening, Morgan would sit in her gradually evolving living room, surrounded by tools and paint samples, and experience something she recognized as contentment, a quiet pride in creating something meaningful from what others had discarded. 6 months into the renovation, disaster struck without warning. Morgan awoke at 3 in the morning to the sound of rushing water and stumbled downstairs to find the first floor ceiling had partially collapsed. Water pouring from a burst pipe in the upstairs bathroom. Frantically contacting Tyler, while simultaneously attempting to locate the main water shutoff, she watched in horror as water damaged fresh plasterwork and newly refinished floors. The subsequent days brought grim news. Insurance would cover only a fraction of the damage due to the property's transitional renovation status. The necessary repairs would cost thousands she didn't possess, potentially derailing the entire project. As Morgan sat amidst the wreckage, calculating whether a personal loan could cover the repairs without bankrupting her, an unexpected knock sounded at the front door. Her mother stood on the porch, immaculately dressed as always, observing Morgan's disheveled appearance with a critical eye. "James mentioned you've encountered some problems," she said by way of greeting. "I thought I should see this situation for myself." Her inspection of the house was methodical, noting progress with grudging acknowledgement, but lingering on unfinished areas and water damage with obvious disapproval. "You've certainly been working hard," she finally conceded, running a finger along a freshly painted trim. "Though I maintain this entire project was ill-conceived." They settled in the only fully furnished room, the small library Morgan had prioritized as her sanctuary. "Vanessa's retreat project has encountered difficulties," her mother announced after declining Morgan's offer of tea in a chipped mug. "The investor who promised matching funds withdrew unexpectedly. The family contributions, including my significant portion, are currently at risk." The familiar pressure became immediately apparent. "I didn't come here to request assistance," she continued, though her tone suggested otherwise. "But it occurs to me that this property, despite its obvious challenges, might have appreciated somewhat with your improvements. A quick sale could be advantageous for both of us." The implication hung in the air. Sell her house to finance Vanessa's struggling project. "I am not selling," Morgan stated simply. Her mother's composure briefly slipped. "After everything this family has done for you, your sister faces financial ruin, and you sit in this monument to selfishness and refuse to help?" Something unexpected occurred then. Not a dramatic confrontation, as Morgan might have once imagined, but a calm clarity that settled over her like the dust in a long, unopened room. "What exactly has this family done for me, Mother?" she asked quietly. "When have my aspirations ever been supported in the way Vanessa's have been? When has my pragmatic approach to life been valued instead of dismissed? This house is not a monument to selfishness. It is the first place where I have ever truly belonged, where my efforts and vision matter." Her mother's expression shifted between shock and indignation. We provided you with everything as you grew up. We supported your education. You tolerated my choices while making it abundantly clear they disappointed you. Morgan interrupted, surprising both of them. You have been waiting my entire life for me to become someone else. Someone more like Vanessa. Someone more like you. I am done waiting for approval that will never arrive. The silence that followed felt weightless, as though a burden Morgan had carried for decades had finally been set down. I believe you should leave now, she said, standing to show her to the door. I have a ceiling to repair. After her mother departed, Morgan leaned against the closed door, expecting tears or regret. Instead, she felt an unfamiliar lightness, the liberation of speaking truth after years of careful silence. The water damage crisis, though still very real, somehow seemed less overwhelming. That evening, Morgan's phone buzzed with unexpected messages from members of the restoration community, offering assistance after seeing her post about the setback. A local plumbing company, intrigued by the historic aspects of the project, offered discounted labor. Tyler arrived with two friends from his construction company, volunteering a Saturday to help with the ceiling repairs. Most surprising was a message from Vanessa, sent privately. I saw Mom after she visited you. She's furious, but I think she's also stunned that you stood up to her. For what it's worth, I'm envious of what you're creating there. It's authentically yours. In a way, my retreat project never was. It was always about Mom's vision, not mine. The message concluded with a tentative question. Would it be awkward if I came to see your house sometime? Just me? No mom? No drama. The reconciliation wasn't immediate or complete, but it marked a beginning. The first sincere communication they had shared in years. As Morgan worked alongside her new community of supporters, replacing damaged materials and implementing improved water systems, she realized the crisis had revealed something crucial. She was no longer alone, no longer the invisible foster daughter awaiting validation. She had built not merely a house, but a life with its own foundation, structure, and purpose. 1 year after purchasing her junk house for $900, Morgan hosted an open house celebration, marking the substantial completion of the main floor renovation. The transformation astonished even those who had witnessed the progress incrementally. The once collapsing front porch now featured restored Victorian details and comfortable seating. Inside, original hardwood floors gleamed beneath area rugs salvaged from estate sales. The living room's focal point, a marble fireplace Morgan had uncovered beneath layers of drywall, showcased period-appropriate restoration. The kitchen, though still budget-conscious, combined salvaged cabinets, refinished in complementary colors with modern appliances and butcher block countertops, possessing a charm often lacking in expensive renovations. 2 weeks before the celebration, Morgan had received an unexpected phone call from a real estate appraiser. A local historical society member suggested I evaluate your property, she explained. They are considering featuring exemplary renovations in their annual tour. The resulting appraisal valued the house at just over $200,000, a figure that validated Morgan's vision in terms even her mother might comprehend. The Historical Society did indeed select her house for their tour, and a regional home improvement magazine contacted her about featuring the renovation in an upcoming issue. Her restoration Instagram account had grown to 30,000 followers, leading to partnership opportunities that helped fund the remaining projects. Amidst the celebration's warmth and congratulations, Morgan noticed Vanessa standing somewhat uncertainly near the entrance. Their relationship had been slowly rebuilding through occasional texts and coffee meetings, each of them carefully navigating new boundaries. This is incredible, Morgan, Vanessa said, taking in the details with genuine appreciation. You've created something truly special here. For the first time in their adult lives, they had a conversation unmarked by competition or comparison. just two sisters sharing authentic thoughts and experiences. The retreat didn't happen. Vanessa admitted as they sat in the garden, Morgan had begun reclaiming from years of neglect. But honestly, I'm relieved. It was never truly my passion, just something that seemed impressive enough to satisfy mom's expectations. 2 months after the celebration, their mother finally requested a proper tour. Her visit was brief and guarded, but Morgan caught genuine surprise in her expression as she observed the transformation. "You've certainly proven your point," she conceded, running her hand across the restored banister, though a traditional modern home would have entailed far less trouble. It wasn't an apology or full recognition, but from Elaine Foster, it represented significant movement. The small family gathering Morgan hosted that Christmas was tentative and occasionally awkward, but it symbolized a shift from complete estrangement to cautious reconnection. As the house continued to evolve, so too did Morgan's understanding of its significance in her life. What began as a practical solution to home ownership had become a journey of self-discovery. The skills she developed led to weekend workshops she now offered for women interested in basic home renovation, fostering community around shared learning. Each class that filled with enthusiastic participants reinforced what had become her core belief, that both people and houses contain inherent value, often invisible to those unwilling to look beneath surface imperfections. The $900 initial investment had yielded returns far surpassing financial appreciation. It had shown her her own resilience, creativity, and worth, independent of family validation. The crisis that had forced her out of her childhood home had ultimately guided her to where she truly belonged. Sometimes Morgan would tell her workshop participants as they restored an antique door together, "The things others discard become our greatest treasures, not despite their flaws, but because working through those imperfections reveals what is genuinely valuable underneath." This is a story about finding strength in unexpected places, a testament to the fact that sometimes the most beautiful transformations begin when someone sees possibility where everyone else sees only problems.